Welcome to another In Wheel Time podcast, a 30-minute mini version of the In Wheel Time car show that airs live every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central. Celebrating 10 years of award-winning car talk. It's the In Wheel Time car show. Just ahead, the vehicle reliability report from Consumer Reports. Stay tuned for that. Ron Stein is here, and we'll talk about everything that our resident know-it-all has in his head this morning.
Learn something else.
We'll review our featured vehicle of the week, the 2022 Buick Envision. And we've got your weekly cruise-in calendar along with This Week in Auto History. We'll also have the stories making auto news headlines this week. Just ahead on today's In Wheel Time car show. Howdy, along with Mike Out of This World Mars. We need more, Jeff Zekin.
We do.
I'm Don Armstrong. Thanks for joining us today. Conrad's out, and he'll be back with us again next week. So next week we'll be here in the studio, and the following week we will be at Tailpipes and Tacos, very special Christmas cruise-in. And it's going to be a judged event.
Yes.
And it's also bring a toy and get a free loopy breakfast. So that ought to be
This will be at the Katy location.
At the Katy location, yes, exactly.
And that's located?
In Katy. It's in Katy.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's on the Grand Parkway, or as they know otherwise as 99, the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard.
There you go.
So mark your calendars. Okay. Consumer Reports. His name is Joh Linkov. John, good morning to you, and thanks so much for joining us. Great to see you.
Good morning, guys. Good to see you. Good to listen to you and watch.
Well, thanks. We are a cast of characters here, and we're gonna try to respect what knowledge you bring to the show today, because we love your magazine, and you always have some great information. And today, it's the annual auto reliability data survey, if you will, and so let's talk about that. And you've got them divided up into different categories, and I'm going to kind of let you lead this discussion. And wherever you want to start, let's talk.
Yeah, sure. Some background.
Please.
What we have in our magazine.
Yep.
What we have on our website. We survey our members. So we have data from our members who actually go out and buy these cars. It's not that we bought one or we have a press car that had a bad whatever, a piece fell off or, it stalled out, and we're using that data. We actually use data from people who own these vehicles. They tell us their experience. So that's what it's based on.
How many people are there that contribute to this?
Sure. This year there's more than 300,000 split into.
Holy Toledo. It's half the country.
Well, not quite there, but it's statistically large enough. I mean, look, I'm no stats analyst, let's put it that way. I'm more of a car guy, and I'm a writer. Right. But it's a statistically valid survey.
Very significant.
Sizes are large enough.
Sure.
So yeah, we look at across the industry. We've got data on the 28 brands. From Lexus and Mazda, Toyota at the top. They're the most reliable brands. Rounding at the bottom, brand-wise, Jeep, Tesla, and Lincoln. Their vehicles haven't been as reliable.
Don't you find that surprising that an electric Tesla is not that reliable?
So you may have read the report and teed me up for a good answer here, because while the electrics may have less maintenance, as you guys know, look, no oil, not the coolant changes, just not the same things that a conventional vehicle has to do. They still have a lot of technology, and technology is where the cars are having more problems today. So they're having issues with electric systems, whether it's the doors, whether it's the windows, particularly when you have more power operated systems like that. Tesla's also just had some issues with their cars with basic stuff, with assembly process, paint problems. So it's those are flaws, and it may not inhibit the driving of the vehicle, but it's still a problem. You have to take the car back and get it repainted, a brand new car.
Well, I think one of the things about Tesla in particular is the fact that they haven't had the history about painting cars. Granted, the technology is there, but can they execute the technology? And I think that it's a growing pain.
It certainly is. And it's kind of, I like to look at it in the sense of just like what we see with the just-in-time delivery with chip manufacturing right now.
Yes.
Is impacting.
Right.
The keeping costs low, so they're not having inventory, et cetera, but also with the manufacturing process, we are able to make so many running changes that also opens up running problems. And that's, what you're seeing with that type of thing. Lincoln is just, there's a Ford Explorer, for example, similar to the Aviator, same platform. That's been a problematic. They've been both in problematic vehicles. The Nautilus, just having issues with those kind of first and second year models. And one of the things that we've always talked about is, look, skip that first year. It may be exciting to get that brand new car first on the block, but that's when all manufacturers have teething issues, whether it's, Toyota, and they're known for having reliable vehicles, also because they just tend to run the same, much of the same platform for years and years and years, the same 3.5 V6, the same 6-speed automatic transmission with tweaks. They still have first year issues. Their reliability drops. So that's why we saw similar things with Ford and Lincoln, for example.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because in my experience, and I used to work for a car dealership here in Houston a long time ago, and even then there were issues with first-year cars, and there always has been. And somebody says, well, I want to buy me a new car. What do you think about this one? And it's a brand new model. I said, why don't you just wait for another year? Hang on to what you got, or go buy a different model. That's always been my suggestion, because, like you said, got to work out those bugs.
Yes, certainly. I mean, everyone gets into their car and they expect it to turn on and run and drive, and you're driving a computer nowadays over rough roads in varied temperatures. Look, you guys in Texas, you're going from super hot to snow, unfortunately, once in a while.
That's right.
And everyone expects the car to be, abused. You're not taking your MacBook or your IBM computer, your ThinkPad, and banging it around, but that's what you're doing with the car. And, so not only is it that element of it, but just getting it right when you're building it, it takes a bit of time. I mean, there's thousands of parts. It's a complex product.
Well, John, you're a guy that drives new cars just like we are, and as well as I do, that one of the most baffling things about the new technology is voice recognition. I can sit all day and go through the whole learning process with the stupid car, and even though I say the word 10 times, when it comes to actual use, it doesn't understand what I'm saying.
Right.
And it's not that I'm mumbling or stumbling or anything like that. It's just so frustrating. Now, they have made significant advances, but that is one of the things that is glaringly still behind the times.
No, certainly. And you're going to see with infotainment systems and, as an extension of the voice recognition systems, the technology just keeps advancing further and further. And then you see that older system that comes out that doesn't have natural voice recognition that many of the manufacturers now have in their vehicles. And it is a stumbling block. It's a major stumbling block. And particularly with driving a variety of cars, there's always nuances as well. So if you're going from, you have your Chevrolet Trailblazer, for example, you just bought, but you're getting out of a Chrysler product like a Jeep Compass or something like that. It might be slightly different, and you have to almost reteach yourself how to talk to the car instead of having the car understand you. So that is a challenge as well, just in the satisfaction and usability side of owning a vehicle.
And the other thing, in addition to that, is the fact that as the technology progresses, it doesn't mean that the manufacturer goes back and retrofits a vehicle that may be 5, 6, 7 years old. They're going to keep that technology that they built that car with, even though they've progressed with a new car and things have changed in the infotainment system, and voice recognition being one of them.
That's exactly right. One of the things we see is that a vehicle such as the Infiniti Q50, for example, it's a reliable vehicle. It's been built for a long while. It's a fine performer, but some of the technology is so antiquated in the Infiniti system, the infotainment system, that it gets very low owner satisfaction rates. I mean, there's other factors involved as well, but just things such as that, because there's a huge investment and because of the lag time for development, people ask me all the time, why don't they just have a slot where you could drop an iPad or your phone in? Because, the systems are so old and they're so out of date by the time they even hit the dealership for the first time, let alone 4 or 5 years down the road with that model. It baffles consumers why they just can't drop their own device in and just call it a day.
So let's get back to the Consumers Report's annual reliability data index, if you will. Lexus is number one. That really doesn't surprise me. Does it surprise you?
It's not surprising in the sense of, like we talked about earlier with Toyota, Lexus, Toyota being the parent company. They run a simple-ish product line. They have a big truck, the Tundra, but they don't have 2500, 3500 series. They don't have whole lines of sports cars. They run a more simple product line. They use a lot of similar platforms or few similar platforms. And they worked it out to the point that the least reliable vehicle in the survey, the Lexus UX for Lexus, is still well above any vehicle, many vehicles out there. Their top vehicle had no problems, a Lexus GX, but tied with the Chevrolet Trailblazer, the new small SUV, no problems reported by any owners either. So that's a big feather in Chevrolet's cap.
And I find it interesting that there is a Cadillac that is one of the most reliable models, but it has been out for a while, and that's the Cadillac XT5.
Yes.
Yep, the XT5 SUV, a very nice model, tested well as far as in a road test. Not the sportiest, not the most luxurious. It's just kind of that in-betweener where it doesn't do one thing huge at the negative, result for something else. But what you see is that a few years of development, a few years being out there, working out the issues, pays dividends for an auto manufacturer because it wasn't recommended last year for reliability. So they've worked out those problems. The new ones are launching well and going through their first 6-8 months well with few problems. And they're also addressing the previous issues for owners. So those have had lifted. People who already own them have reported back that their vehicles are now more reliable because the issues have been worked out.
Now, some of for instance, on the least reliable list, the worst, one of them is the Tesla Model Y, the Chrysler Pacifica. There's a vehicle that's been around a while. You'd have thought that they'd have got the bugs worked out of it.
Yeah, what you see is just sometimes focus. What we with manufacturers is that Model Y, they've still not. It's a more recent version, a newer version of, for example, the Model 3, but it's having some of the same teething issues. Screens failing. It's having the paint issues. It's having just hardware issues. The drivetrain of the vehicles are fantastic. We're looking at the Model S and the new Model S and just how as an EV Teslas are great. It's the other stuff. Some of the driver assistance systems, et cetera. That's where you see the problems. And it's the manufacturing process that's hurting Tesla, really, not the driving experience. Chrysler Pacifica is a hard one to say. Why is a longer in the tooth, not particularly long, but an older model having issues? Is Chrysler Stellantis, stretched with its resources, focusing on launching all the new Jeeps and not putting as much into the Chrysler, the Pacifica? That may be one thing.
Yeah. Another thing that surprised me is the Chevrolet Silverado and the GMC Sierra 1500. Now, I know that those are recently redone vehicles, but my gosh, body on frame technology, it's definitely an old way of making a vehicle. And it surprises me that one, I'm not a big fan of the design, but the other thing is that it really is the least reliable model in that list. I mean, it's a shame that it's that way.
Yeah. So what we saw with that in the similar Tahoe, because the similar platforms,
yes.
shared platforms,
yep.
They had engine and transmission issues, which is kind of a rare thing these days. Most of the time, it's electrical. That just tends to be what a lot of the problems are. They rise up. These are transmissions that have been rebuilt and replaced, which is a shame. Which is kind of, to your point, it's an established process. So why is this happening? And it's multiple reports, and it's across the different vehicles as well. So it's not as if, well, it's a weird batch with the Silverado. Why are you tagging these others? It's going across the similar models. So there was an issue with at least a batch, a block, or whatever. of engines and transmissions are affecting all of those vehicles.
And the Corvette, now granted, Corvette is a relatively new vehicle, but you would have thought that down the way here that they'd have got those first-year bugs worked out. Now they're coming out with, 1 million horsepower versions of them, and they've still got issues.
Well, so first of all, my father is a big Corvette guy. In fact, I grew up with a...
Careful.
Sorry. He went to the Corvette Museum. I grew up, I taught track day instruction with Corvettes. I was 4 months old, put in the back of a 65 and driven out to Chicago. So that's my background with some cars.
Right.
So he wants to buy ours when we're done testing it. The issue that I think affected Corvette was that it came in, first of all, right. It's a first year vehicle. So,
right.
We already established that, look, getting it with Chevy, they took down the entire line at Bowling Green. They had to build a new line to build this car. Then COVID hit. So you had a very, very truncated first model year.
Yep.
They only made a few thousand. Pauses, delays, stops. Then they go into the second model year, but they really didn't have a humming line. And there are reports outside. I haven't seen our verbatims say this from our survey. So, respondents haven't said this specific thing, but there is a lot of discussion about filings in the transmission, metal shavings. You have to replace transmission fluid at a very specific time. And it dovetails with the data that we saw with transmission replacements. So while people haven't said that that's what they were told by their dealer, there are outside reports among Corvette enthusiasts and forums about these vehicles having transmission issues. And that's what we saw as well. So I'm not using that to validate our work because our work stands for itself, but it is something that's out there both in the enthusiast world as well as more mainstream, Consumer Reports ownership.
Well, it's the integrity of the survey. The integrity of the survey matters.
Yeah. So the other thing that I know that you have experienced this as well, being a guy that drives different new cars every week. People come up to you and say, if you were going to recommend a vehicle to me, what would it be? And I said, well, one that you like. That is the most important of all. What you like. Yeah. So you're the one that's going to have to sit in that vehicle for 3 or 5 years or however long you keep vehicles. So you really need to like it. That's the first thing.
Certainly.
The other thing is that, I always ask them, well, what kind of vehicle are you looking for? You're looking for a sedan? You're looking for an SUV, a pickup truck? I mean, all of the different categories. And then it's kind of like, well, I said, is it a money thing? Okay, so how much money do you want to spend? Because there's all these different parameters that you really have to look at to give somebody your opinion. But most of the time, I kind of, like I'm doing now, hedging my bet, if you will. But I just got out of a Buick Envision, which is a luxury compact SUV. And I loved that vehicle. I think that it is a hit all the way. And I find it interesting that this is one of your top 5 domestic brand models that you guys are going, wow, well, this is a pretty good vehicle. And obviously your readers think the same thing.
Certainly. First off, the second generation Envision, a big improvement for the line,
yes,
for the vehicle type. The first one, nothing against it, but it just was there. Buick benefits in a way sort of that Toyota does. I mean, they're obviously part of General Motors. But they have a small niche-y line. They have a few vehicles focused on. Odd that the Enclave dropped so much. I'm digressing for a second. That it had drops, but also it was a refreshed vehicle a year or so ago.
Right.
The Envision, again, has been out in the market long enough to have sample size. But General Motors kept it very simple. The infotainment system is robust. GM's is one of the better infotainment systems out there.
Agreed.
They're not reinventing the wheel each time.
Yep.
And then as far as testing, it just does things very well. It's not the sportiest. It doesn't have a cushy old school Buick floaty suspension. It's composed enough without being harsh. So that's why it's scored very well. But yeah, I mean, it's just an example. Buick, if you've been watching our data, has always been floating around in the top 5, if not, top 10 definitely, but top 5, sometimes even top 3 auto manufacturers, depending on the year. people may say, oh, well, it's old in the tooth product, but they also benefit that GM introduces the Chevy version or the GMC version first, and then they introduce the Buick version. So just like Hyundai and Kia, Hyundai comes out with a model first. Kia tends to lag about a year. The Kias tend to be a little more reliable than the Hyundais because Hyundai figure out the issues. They work through the issues with that first year vehicle, and they apply it to the second year Hyundais and the first year Kias. Buick benefits from that as well.
Well, listen, I think we could spend the entire morning together talking about this stuff, but really the real go-to thing is get on to Consumer Reports and find out about this survey. It's Consumer Reports, and it's their survey among their readers. And so where can we find out more information and subscribe and all that sort of stuff, John?
Certainly. Appreciate that. So you can find it on newsstands. The issues are going to be on newsstands right now. But, if you're just sitting home online, consumerreports.org, cr.org, both of them work. cr.org/reliability will bring you right to our reliability survey. There is some free content. We are a nonprofit, so we have a subscription model. So you can pay for a 1 month subscription and read what you want and go through our site. And 1 month gives, you get not just cars, you get also everything else that we test. So it's a full service.
Well, I've been looking for a refrigerator, and this is where I need to go.
Exactly.
Feel free to send me an email. I'll be happy to direct you to the right person.
Look at this report. I mean, it's a very extensive report.
It really is. Really is.
We need one on Dagmars.
We don't need one on Dagmars. John, we certainly appreciate you spending the time with us this morning. Thanks so much. We love Consumer Reports. Stay in touch with us now and give us the latest when you got it.
Definitely. Have yourself a great weekend.
You do the same.
Thank you.
Joh Linkov, Consumer Reports and Vehicle Reliability Survey. I love to talk to those guys. When we got this, I sent it right to Mars. We got to get them on. And thank you for that, sir. All right.
It was really good.
Cruise-in calendar. And I've been mentioning the Tailpipes and Tacos event coming up in a couple of weeks out at the Lupi Tortilla. Be sure, and if you're a cruiser, come on out and join us. We'll be doing our live remote from there. Do you have...
No, I do not.
Oh, you already did all of that. Okay, never mind then. So let's move on. We have the car review of the hour. It is the 2022 Buick Envision that I just mentioned. Here are the available trim levels. It comes in Preferred, the Essence, and the Avenir. I had the Avenir front-wheel drive. It's considered a small SUV. It's really Buick's midsize SUV, if you will. Seats 5 passengers, all new in 2021. Exterior features include modern but conservative overall design. We particularly like the high zoot Avenir with just a touch of chrome and the really nice wheels, and that's a picture of it right there. Mm-hmm. Nice rear end with dual exhaust tips. Mm-hmm. Sporty, blacked-out version is available if you like that. Love the overall look. What could use improvement? Offer a GNX package.
What?
The GNX.
Yeah.
Just a thought. There you go, Buick. That's for you.
Okay.
Interior highlights. New, larger 10.2-inch touch screen is an option. Great dash sculpting. Love the layout of the control surfaces. Good-looking, quilted, perforated leather seating surfaces on the upscale Avenir, which I had. And the front-to-back glass roof. That's pretty cool, too, if you're into that sort of thing. Cargo trunk room, perfect for husband and wife trips. With the rear seats up, you could take another couple with you and have plenty of room, I think. Although I will say that the back seat is a little tight. So make sure that it's a day trip, like going to Austin or San Antonio or something like that. What I liked about it, love the push-pull buttons for the transmission. Very well done. What could use improvement? Big question mark there because I don't know. Had a 2.0-liter inline four-cylinder engine, turbocharged. It turned out 230 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. You say, well, that's not much. Well, so here's the payoff there. Through the 9-speed automatic transmission, you get a tow rating of 1,500 pounds. And as far as fuel mileage is concerned, it's rated at 24 city, 31 highway for a combined of 26. I got 28.5 miles per gallon.
Wow.
Now, granted, 90 to 95% of mine is on the freeway, but it works for me. That was over 464.7 miles. I like plenty of power with that 9-speed automatic transmission, and I let the start-stop feature do its thing because it doesn't shudder to life at the stop sign. And you're going, what is that? That's the engine. It does start, but it's flawless, it's smooth, and it doesn't shudder to life. It just comes on like it's supposed to.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Ride and handling, I love the smoothness of this. What could use improvement? I think that the steering was a little over boosted. It's a Buick, and I just think that it's a Buick. Just leave it at that. Pricing. Base trim price is $39,850. Price is tested $45,000. I love this SUV, and I would highly recommend it if you're into a small to mid-size SUV.
Told you.
That you go out and drive this thing, and I think that you'll agree with me. It's really nice. Base model price, you can get into one for $31,800. Competitors, Mercedes-Benz GLC, one of the Lexus models, and I didn't write it down which one it is, but I know there is one. Mazda CX-5 also.
No XT4? Cadillac XT4?
No, well, okay. XT4. I'm not a big fan of the Cadillac XT4.
Okay.
And I think that they're built on the same platform, to be honest
Pretty
with you.
much.
But I think that the Buick offers more value than the Cadillac.
Cool.
I remember driving the Cadillac, and it just didn't have the Cadillac feel. Like your car or the XT5. Love the XT5.
Yeah.
Always have since it came out. But
Good stuff.
So that's the review of the 2022 Buick Envision Avenir. Hey, the In-Wheel Time Car Show streams on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and InWheelTime.com. Podcasts are available from your favorite podcast source. In-Wheel Time Car Show continues right after this quick break.
It's a very special
letting them all
Christmas
roll?
Tailpipes and Tacos car cruise-in.
Letting them all
Saturday,
roll?
December 18th at the Loopy Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy. Bring a toy for Star of Hope and have breakfast on us. Tailpipes and Tacos will award trophies for Best Hot Rod, Best Classic, and Best Modern Classic. It's the great Christmas cruise-in on Saturday, December 18th, so make plans now. Tailpipes and Tacos is Houston's coolest cruise-in, and this one brings it all together for Star of Hope in a Toys for Breakfast Christmas special. Bring a toy and get a free Loopy Tortilla breakfast, plus trophies for Best Hot Rod, Best Classic, and Best Modern Classic. It all happens at the Loopy Tortilla Tex-Mex in Katy on the Grand Parkway at Kingsland Boulevard, just south of I-10. Get your ride ready for a very special Christmas cruise-in Loopy style. It's Tailpipes and Tacos, Saturday, December 18th, 8 to 11 a.m. The In-Wheel Time Car Show will be there, too. Let's celebrate the Christmas season together at the next Tailpipes and Tacos Toys for a free Loopy breakfast, Saturday, December 18th, 8 to 11 a.m. We'll see you then, weather permitting. If you're in charge of your company's small, medium, or large business anywhere in the U.S., let the On Hold Company help you retain customers and promote your business on your telephone system. Promote special sales or company info when placed on hold. The On Hold Company provides custom on-hold messages with professional male or female voices, licensed background music with no long-term contract, no monthly recurring bill, and updates your messages as needed. Call the On Hold Company at 713-223-HOLD or go to onhold.net. Is your business or company looking to stand out in a crowded advertising market? Looking to reach the real auto enthusiast? Well, you found it. You're listening or watching In Wheel Time, and so are your fellow enthusiasts. The In Wheel Time Car Show now reaches 500,000, and we can put together a marketing plan that will engage them in your product, business, or service. To get the tires rolling, just shoot us an email to our marketing director, Jeff Zekin. His address is jeff@inwheeltime.com. That's it for this podcast episode of the In-Wheel Time Car Show. I'm Don Armstrong, inviting you to join us for our live show every Saturday morning, 8 to 11 a.m. Central on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and our InWheelTime.com website. Podcasts are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart Podcast, Podcast Addict, TuneIn, Pandora, and Amazon Music. Keep listening, and we'll see you soon.